She banged on the wooden door like she owned the place, shouting, "Open this right now. My guests need to use the cabin." The man inside didn't move an inch. He stood tall, calm, watching her through the glass window with his arms folded. He didn't owe her an explanation. This was his lake cabin, bought with his hard-earned money. And no HOA president had the right to demand his keys. But she wasn't backing down. Her blonde hair was flying in the wind, her face red with fury as she waved a clipboard full of fake HOA rules. She slammed a paper against the door. "This property falls under community use, and you will unlock it. If you don't, I'll call security and have you removed." He slowly opened the door just enough to step outside. His voice was calm but sharp. "You're trespassing on my land. Back away." That only made her angrier. She smirked and pointed toward the road where two unfamiliar men in dark uniforms were walking up. "See? I already called them. You're done here. They'll drag you out if you don't hand me that key." The man's jaw tightened. Something about those uniforms didn't look right. No badges, no proper gear, just cheap patches stitched onto black shirts. Fake cops. The president smirked wider, thinking she'd won. "You can't fight the HOA," she said smugly. But the men didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward and whispered, almost too softly for her to hear, "You picked the wrong person to threaten." Her laugh stopped. She blinked, unsure why his calmness felt more dangerous than her yelling. The two so-called officers stepped closer, waiting for her signal. She gave them a nod, like she had the authority of a queen. But before they could reach the porch, the man pulled something from his pocket, a small silver badge. Her face drained of color the moment she saw it. "You wanted law enforcement," he said, holding it up. "Congratulations. You just got it." The fake officers froze mid-step, their eyes darting to each other as if they suddenly realized they were standing in the wrong place. The HOA president's smile cracked. But she forced it back, barking louder to cover her slip. "Don't just stand there. Arrest him. He's refusing HOA compliance." The man didn't even move. He kept the badge steady in his hand, his voice low but cutting through the air like steel. "Touch me, and you'll both be in handcuffs before sunset." The silence that followed was heavier than the mountain air around the lake. For a moment, even the wind seemed to stop. Karen, that's what the neighbors called her, took a nervous step back. She tried to regain her authority, jabbing a finger toward the cabin. "This property isn't really yours. I've got documents proving it's HOA land." She dug into her clipboard, shoving papers into his chest. But he didn't look at them. He let them fall to the wooden porch like trash. Fake notices. Fake rules. Fake cops. He tilted his head, watching her sweat. "Do you ever get tired of lying?" That line hit harder than she expected. She snapped back, screaming now, her voice echoing across the lake. "You think you're untouchable? This community answers to me." From the road, curious neighbors had started to gather, whispering and pointing their phones. Some were filming, others just shaking their heads. The man noticed, but he didn't break his calm. He actually gave Karen the smallest smirk, knowing every second of this was being recorded. Her eyes widened, realizing she was losing control of the stage. That's when she pulled her next card. With a wild grin, she shouted, "Fine. If you won't give me the key, then your truck is getting towed right now." She pointed to the gravel driveway, where a tow truck was already backing up toward his black pickup. The man's calm expression finally shifted, but not in fear. A shadow crossed his face, something between anger and determination. He muttered under his breath, just loud enough for Karen to hear, "Big mistake." The tow truck's chains clattered as the driver jumped out, already lowering the hook toward the man's pickup. Karen folded her arms, her grin stretching wide as she shouted for everyone to hear. "HOA rules, no oversized vehicles on community land. This truck is illegal here." Neighbors gasped. Phones tilted closer. Some whispered, "That's his truck. He's had it for years," while others shook their heads, disgusted at Karen's theatrics. The men stepped off the porch, slow and steady, each boot hitting the wooden steps with weight. He didn't yell. He didn't rush. He just walked right up to the tow truck, standing between his truck and the hook. The driver hesitated, wiping sweat from his neck. "Sir, I was told this is HOA enforcement." "By her." The man interrupted, jerking his head toward Karen. "Let me guess. No paperwork. No court order. Just a phone call and cash under the table." The driver froze. The neighbors leaned in, waiting. Karen's voice cracked as she snapped, "Don't listen to him. He's dangerous. He threatened me." The man didn't look at her. Instead, he pulled his phone from his pocket, swiped quickly, and held it up. On the screen was live security footage, clear as day, showing Karen the night before sneaking into his driveway, snapping photos of his truck, and calling someone on speaker. "Yeah. Bring the tow first thing tomorrow. I'll make it look official." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone even shouted, "Oh my God, she planned this." Karen's face turned white, but she still tried to shout over the murmurs. "That video's fake. He's lying." But the driver was already stepping back, shaking his head. "Lady, I don't want any part of this." He raised his hands, retreating to his cab. The tow hook clanged uselessly to the ground. Karen spun in circles, desperate now, her voice breaking. "You can't do this to me. I'm the president. I decide what happens here." The man finally turned to her, his voice low but steady, cutting through her chaos. "Not today. And not on my land." The neighbors cheered, some openly laughing, others clapping as Karen's face twisted in rage. But just as it seemed like she had lost completely, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and smirked through her tears. She lifted it high, shouting, "Real cops are on their way. And this time, they'll listen to me." Red and blue lights flickered across the trees as the sound of sirens cut through the mountain air. Neighbors stepped back, phones still recording, waiting to see who was about to be exposed. Karen straightened her blazer, wiped her face quickly, and plastered on a fake look of calm authority. She turned to the crowd, speaking loudly, "Finally. Real law enforcement is here to deal with this trespasser." The patrol car stopped in front of the cabin. Two uniformed deputies stepped out, real badges shining in the headlights. Karen ran to them, waving her hands dramatically. "Officers. Thank God you came. This man is violent, he threatened me. He's refusing community rules, arrest him immediately." The men didn't move. He stood by his truck, arms crossed, eyes steady. The deputies glanced at him, then back at Karen. One of them asked flatly, "You said he's trespassing on this property?" "Yes." Karen snapped. "He doesn't even belong here. I'm the HOA president, this cabin is under my authority." That's when the man reached into his jacket and slowly pulled out a folder. He didn't hand it to Karen, he handed it straight to the deputy. The officer opened it, eyes scanning the papers. Property deed. Clear ownership. His name printed bold, with a purchase date years back. The crowd murmured louder. Karen's face twitched, but she wasn't done. She jabbed her finger toward the papers. "Those are fake. He probably printed them himself." The deputy didn't respond. Instead, he turned to the men and asked, "Do you have identification to match this deed?" Without hesitation, the man pulled out his wallet and handed over his driver's license. The deputy compared the names, looked up, and gave the slightest nod. "Looks good." Karen exploded, her voice shrill now. "What are you doing? He's lying to you. He threatened me. He called those men to impersonate officers." She pointed wildly at the two fake cops who were now inching toward the edge of the crowd, trying to slip away unseen. The second deputy's hand moved to his radio. "We'll handle that." Karen's confident mask cracked. But she screamed one last desperate line, "Don't you see? I'm the president here. I make the rules. The first deputy turned to her, calm and cold. Ma'am. HOA rules don't override state law. And right now, you're the one facing charges. The crowd erupted, some laughed, others cheered. Phones zoomed in on Karen's stunned face as she stumbled back. Speechless for the first time. The man finally spoke, his voice low but clear enough for everyone to hear. I told you. Wrong person to threaten. The deputies didn't waste a second. They turned toward the two fake cops, who were already halfway to their car. Stop right there. One shouted. The men froze, their cheap patches catching the glow of the headlights. Within moments, real handcuffs clicked. And the truth was out, Karen had hired them. Paying them to intimidate a homeowner. The neighbors captured everything on their phones. Some whispered, she's finished, while others shouted, about time. Karen's face was red. Her hands trembling as she tried to explain, they lied to me. I didn't know. But no one believed her anymore. The deputies weren't interested in her excuses either. They read out her charges: harassment, trespassing, conspiracy, and attempting to impersonate law enforcement through others. As the cuffs closed around her wrists, she finally broke. You can't do this. I'm the president. This whole community. But her words were drowned out by cheers. The crowd had seen too much. And the recording phones told the story better than she ever could. The men didn't celebrate. He simply walked back up to his porch, calm as ever. And stood there watching Karen get placed in the back of the patrol car. One neighbor, holding his phone up high, shouted, "This is going viral tonight." Karen screamed from the window, "I'll get you for this. You'll regret it." But her voice sounded smaller now, drowned by laughter and clapping. The deputy she'd tried to manipulate earlier turned to the man and handed back his papers. "You're all clear, sir. Sorry you had to deal with this." He gave a firm nod, then looked out at the crowd. His voice was steady, with the weight of something deeper. "I didn't fight for this country. Just to be told I can't unlock my own front door." The neighbors fell silent for a moment. Then came the loudest cheer yet. People weren't just clapping for him, they were clapping for the principle. The reminder that land, family, and freedom still meant something. The patrol cars pulled away, their red and blue lights fading into the night. The lake grew quiet again. Except for the hum of voices retelling what they had just witnessed. And the man, now alone on his porch, watched the stars over the water. He didn't smile. But his eyes carried the quiet pride of someone who had stood his ground and won. Not with fists, but with truth.